Hello and welcome to the Jerry Hicks Show, exclusively on the Censored Freedom Network. Now, the man that thought MAGA extremism was a new part of the X Games, your host, Jerry Hicks.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you everybody for being here tonight. It is Monday, March the 24th, 2025. I hope everybody has had a great week so far. It's only been one day, so let us hope, right? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be back on this Monday. As you guys know, we do the Censored Freedom Show on Censored Freedom Network every Sunday over on the X platform. Shout out to you guys listening over on X. We are doing a live show over there tonight. I guess we're also going out live to TikTok, it looks like, but I'm really not paying a lot of attention over there, so we are live once again on these platforms, and we'll be putting it up elsewhere. Quick shout out to everybody listening on TikTok tonight, of course, and then BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and X. Glad to have you guys along for the ride. Tonight, folks, we have a lot of news to get into, so let's go on and hop on into our news rack and see what we have awaiting us today. There we go. So again, looks like we're live over here on TikTok, but we start out with our DOGE report today, ladies and gentlemen, as we like to always try to do. This coming out yesterday, the 23rd of March, says core HR systems, job histories, org charts, benefits, etc. are not consolidated in the federal workforce. From March 2025 survey of 29 agencies, there are 111 instances of 59 unique HR software products offered by 19 vendors and 11 commercial vendors and 11 federal vendors. Price per employee for these systems is 3 to 10 times higher than in private industry, and the majority of said systems do not allow agencies to easily create or view a basic organism chart. DOGE and agencies are working to fix, with pilot projects starting this week. So it looks like the DOGE guys are consolidating a lot of this extra spending and extra software that is absolutely unneeded. I'm glad to see that happening. As of Friday, the Small Business Administration now requires date of birth collection for all direct loan applications and pauses the direct loan process for those under 18 and above 120 years old. Why is that important? Our next story tonight, before we get back into our DOGE report, DOGE and Musk find small business admin gave $330 million to 11-year-olds. I wonder if they had some really nice lemonade stands. And $100,000 to a 9-month-old baby. You heard that right, folks. A 9-month-old baby got $100,000 from the Small Business Administration, and we can barely get our paychecks at the end of the week. So there you go, folks. So barriers have now been put in place requiring date of birth collection and verification, and no loans for under 18 or above 120 years old. I'm sure if there's one person, they might make a special arrangement for that person, right? You guys know we've been following this credit card story where they're cutting all the credit cards of these federal agencies. Pilot program with 16 agencies to audit cards. After 5 weeks, 298,000 cards have been deactivated. And I want to say this was from something like 4.6 million that were originally active. So they're definitely making huge strides in getting the number of credit cards down that are basically just money being wasted. For 3 weeks, Social Security has been executing a major cleanup of their records. Apparently, 7 million number holders, all listed above the age of 120 years old, have now been marked as deceased. Another 5 million to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, they are finally cleaning up the Social Security rolls also. And this is money that was being stolen from us, going to God knows where, whether it was illegal aliens or black projects or other government funding facilities. God knows where the money was going. That's the question I want to know. Was it going back into the Democrats' pockets? Where was it going? You know, I was looking on this the other day, and I noticed that it says do the @ for each one, like @ DOGE USDA, @ DOGE SSA. I noticed that they don't have a DOGE for the FEC. So you go @ DOGE _ well, if Jerry could type, because I'm going to do this live, folks, as you can see, _ USDA. Right, there's one there. Perfect, right? How about FEC? Oh, FEC ain't got one. Why is that important? Ladies and gentlemen, FEC stands for Federal Election Commission. I've reached out to DOGE a couple weeks ago. They refused to respond. Somebody's seen it according to the analytics, but they refused to respond to the request as to why they're not auditing the FEC or whether they are at all. So I hope to hear back soon, and I hope you guys will make a bit of a stink about this also. Because if they don't audit that, it's going to be a whole lot for nothing. They're never going to catch what's going on at Act Blue or even understand what they're looking at until they audit the FEC. An estimated $200 billion payment protection program and COVID injury disaster loan fraud was ignored for 4 years. They knew this money was going to people that should not have got it, like $330 million to a person the age 11. The youngest, Kelly, was 9 months old, who got a $100,000 business loan. Folks, they were wasting this money and throwing it out as quickly as they could. This is why they wanted extra funds, so they could launder it to people that were absolutely not going to use it and end up back in their own hands, like they always try to do. President Trump removes Secret Service protection for disgraced former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Well, he sure wasn't worried about the protection of normal everyday Americans when he tried to gaslight us and tell us the southern border was just fine when it was letting in millions and millions of illegal immigrants by the day. He wasn't worried about the security and safety of regular Americans when that was going on. So I don't think he needs to be having paid security services himself. He can learn how to survive out here with the rest of us, right? I think it's a great move. I do. These people are not working in government. They don't need Secret Service protection, right? I don't think they should get paid after they work in government. I know some of them get a stipend or however much it is, a regulatory check of some type after their service. I don't think they should. I also think that those representing us should make minimum wage. I bet you minimum wage would go up and a whole lot more work would get done. Well, they would just take more bribes, no, because we make the penalty for bribery a lot more steep than it is. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and make that penalty the same one for treason. How about that? That would probably fix a lot of these things. And lobbying, yeah, lobbying is bribery. So lobbyists and anyone accepting bribes from lobbyists would have to be dealt with under that statute. I think that's a much better way of doing things, much less corruptible in my opinion. Not incorruptible, but a lot higher stakes for when you do something stupid, right? The gravy train is over. HUD Secretary Scott Turner ends all taxpayer-funded housing for illegals. Folks, these people were living better than you and I do. They were coming in this country having the literal bank handed to them. Put up in hotels that are nicer than the houses some of us live in, right? But you got to struggle to be able to pay your rent every month and barely get by on what you can. But the illegal aliens here have everything you can get your hands on, right? Well, it's about time that people start standing up for this country, the citizens of this country, and saying enough is enough, this is over. And thank goodness Scott Turner is doing just that. Get ripped. Hey, hey. Glad to see you here. Looks like we got at least one person hanging out, or did have at one point. I'm not sure if they're still with us anymore. Brandywine, good to have you hanging out along for the ride. Hope you're enjoying the show. Gifts are free. We do accept them. No, gifts aren't free. Hearts are free. Taps are free. But gifts are welcome. I'm going to get back to the show, so I quit putting my foot in my mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Turner is pulling funding for the illegals that don't deserve the American money. To begin with, Obama judge whines that Nazis got better treatment than the deported Venezuelan gangsters. I don't see how that would be of any merit either way. There were plane loads of people, she said. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment than this. Folks, these people are not American citizens. They have no constitutional rights whatsoever. They are illegal aliens here breaking the law by being here just by virtue of the act. So no, they're not alleged or allowed for any rights of the Constitution. They're not allowed to have a hearing about whether or not they're able to stay. No, they're not allowed here. They weren't allowed here when they came in. They're not allowed here now. They need to be removed. Period. They don't have the right to an attorney. They don't have a right to trial. They don't have a right to none of that. They're not American citizens. Period. Full stop. Why would we treat them as such if they're not? If this is happening to American citizens, yes, you've got a right to trial and due process and the whole 9 yards. Go to another country and demand due process after sneaking in illegally to their country. You're not going to get what you think you're going to get. If the executive branch, if the leader of the country says you got to go, you got to go. Period. That's just the way it is, right? So these people talking about how Nazis got treated better than the gangsters. No, I doubt that highly because we took a lot of them by our own hands. I'm trying to put this as nicely as I can for certain platforms. Yeah, just ridiculous. These activist judges are going to get removed from the bench if they keep this up. This is why the Democrat Party is in the shitter right now. This is why it's in the hole. Because every time they turn around, they've got a new activist judge or a new Democrat saying something that is so ignorantly out of place that the American people are just sick of it. Like this Boasberg, this guy decided that he was going to usurp the power of the presidency, ladies and gentlemen. He decided he was going to take this for himself and decide what can go on in relation to these deportation flights. This Judge Boasberg, right? Then he demanded the government explain to him. Yeah, demanded they explain to him, like he's some kind of executive branch member, why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing it, what's going on, the whole 9 yards. Probably to find more ways to stop it, right? Because don't forget, his daughter is an activist for illegal immigrants. Shout out to everybody listening out there. Glad to have you along for the ride. So the other day he demanded, you will give us this information or else. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, what he is attempting to rule on, the Alien Enemies Act, what he is doing his best to try to stop Trump from doing is not up for judicial review. The Supreme Court has even said no court can review this and decide one way or the other. Why? Because this is an absolute power of the executive branch. The president has the right to make decisions in relation to the country. That's why he was elected. That's why the American people got together and said, we want this man in charge. We didn't do that just so a judge could usurp the power and say, I don't care who's the president, I'm going to rule on this and you're going to listen. Because that's exactly what this judge tried to do. And Pam Bondi has clapped back and finally got tired of the stupid. I'm surprised she let it go this long. The executive branch hereby notifies the court that no further information will be provided in response to the court's order based on state secrets privilege and the concurrently filed declarations with the Secretary of State and Homeland Security. This is a case about the President's plenary authority derived from Article 2 and the mandate of the electorate, and is reinforced by a long-standing statute to remove from the homeland designated terrorists participating in state-sponsored invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States. The court has all the facts it needs to address the compliant issues before it. Further intrusions on the executive branch would present dangerous and wholly unwarranted separation of powers harms with respect to diplomatic and national security concerns that the court lacks competence to address. I love how she slid a little zinger in there just for the heck of it. No more information is needed to resolve any legal issue in this case. Whether the planes carried one terrorist or 1,000, whether the planes made one stop or 10, has no bearing on any relevant legal issue. The need for additional information here is not merely dubious or trivial, it's non-existent. The executive branch violated no valid order through its actions, and the court has all it needs to evaluate compliance. Accordingly, the court's factual inquiry shall end. I love Pam Bondi, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is she hot, she's smart too. She basically has told this judge, get screwed. You ain't getting nothing else from us. Your orders are garbage and have no relevance. And they don't. This isn't a matter of ignoring the court, ladies and gentlemen. I want to be very clear on this. Because a lot of people would say, well, why would you advocate for ignoring the court? Not advocating for ignoring the court. Well, what the advocation is here is that he has no authority to rule to begin with. There is no court authority to rule on it. Right? It's not ignoring the court, it's ignoring the stupid because the court has no authority. And that's not even hyperbolic speaking. According to the Constitution, court has no authority in this. Supreme Court's even said there is no judicial review available for this. He's wasting everyone's time. Representative Jim Jordan announces House Judiciary hearing to grill the radical judges over partisan rulings and activist records. Folks, if you're an activist judge, you don't need to be a judge. That is bias. You're supposed to rule unbiased on the facts. These judges are clearly ruling with full bias against Trump based on very to little to no facts at all. And all of them just happen to be appointed by Democrats, right? That's just by chance. Well, you're picking on the Democrats. No, the Democrats have put themselves in this position. They've asked for what is about to come down. When these judges try to step in and usurp the power of the presidency and decide that the American people don't deserve a say in the very election that they acted in to choose the president, right? When judges decide that the American people's words and the American people's wishes mean nothing over their own, they need to be removed from the bench. They're no longer judges, they're activists in position. That is not showing unbiased toward the Constitution and the law. That is showing a major hate for the Constitution, if nothing else. And folks, I implore you, remember this when you go back to the polls for the primaries or the midterms in about a year and a half. Remember everything they're doing because they're showing you who they are. International news, another puff piece in Time magazine. Ukraine Zelensky accuses members of the Trump team of spreading Russian narratives. You heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. Because Trump won't give in to Zelensky, he must be spreading Russian narratives, right? The article pities the Kiev regime's leader and says, we see things among the most painful exchanges in the Oval Office took place near the end when Zelensky asked JD if he visited the Ukraine, which he said he wasn't interested in propaganda tours, which he did, right? The next day, Trump decided to set aside the whole deal that he had with Zelensky because Zelensky was acting like a little bitch, let's be honest. And apparently he's now accusing the officials of the U.S. of leaning towards Russia and spouting Russian propaganda. Here it is right here. We get there and things are more complicated. Zelensky says things he wish he hadn't. What bothered Zelensky most about Trump's role in the operation had less to do with intelligence sharing than with Russian disinformation. In the middle of the battle, Trump held a call with Putin, who told the U.S. president that thousands of Ukrainian troops in Kursk had been surrounded by Russian forces. That was a lie, Zelensky said. But Trump continued to amplify it, which means it was most likely the truth. Right? Because I've never seen a position where Trump has actually lied and proven to have lied. Zelensky lies all the time. He says, I believe Russia has managed to influence some people in the White House team through information. In other words, things aren't going your way, so it must be everyone else's fault. It's Putin's fault. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's working with Putin because he won't give me what I want, right? He's nothing but an overgrown child, an actor. That's not hyperbolic, a comedian and an actor. That's what he was before he donned himself, I guess, president. I don't know how this guy actually got elected. And then closed out elections to where no one else will ever have the chance to be elected. A dictator, I think, is what we call that, right? But he's decided that Trump is, Trump's the bad guy, not Zelensky. And Time's running with this story. Ladies and gentlemen, Time, like every other one of these mainstream, mocking stream media platforms, is nothing more than an absolute propaganda machine. Period. Federal judge tramples parental rights, forces explicit books back into Colorado school libraries. This is disturbing. This is why we have to fight, ladies and gentlemen, for our kids' future, because that is who they're mainly after, the next generation. They want to mess them up just as badly as possible. Why do I say this? What is my evidence? 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, we destroyed darn near a whole generation in those 2 years, 20 and 21, by what we did to the school systems. It was horrific. It was horrid. It should have never been done. And we're continuing to do this now. Certain books removed from the library, citing concerns over graphic violence, racism, and discrimination, depictions of self-harm or mental illness, and sexual content. This happened in August 2024. Well, of course, leave it to the activists and the, sickos and the NAACP and the Authors Guild who cried censorship and took this to a federal court. Plaintiffs have shown that the district removed the 19 books, and I'm not going to go through the list. There is a list here, but it was 19 books that were removed. Where was I? Here we go. Based on the authors and books' content and viewpoint on issues such as race, sexual orientation, gender identity, LGBTQ content, and to promote the board's self-proclaimed conservative values. So it neglects to mention the fact that it has, violence and discrimination and self-harm and mental illness and the sexual content. It neglects to mention that part, right? How nice that they just conveniently leave that out. The judge dismissed the board's argument that it was protecting students from inappropriate material writing other than pretextual declarations at this stage. There simply is no reason to believe that these books are removed because of vulgarity, age inappropriateness, or legitimate pedagogical concerns, which is an absolute lie. It goes on to say that this violated the First Amendment of the students and the authors. So I'd like to know where this ends. Can we put just the most absolute worst smut books we can find in the libraries now? Is that how this works? Is that how this goes? At what line do we call free speech enough? Right? Can we just go to the library and start putting stuff that we would only put in adult bookstores in there? It's free speech, right? Because that's basically what they've got in there now, ladies and gentlemen. It's sick. It's sick that it's allowed to happen. It's sick that they're there at all. These parents need to pull their kids from the public schools, pull every one of your children out of the public schools, leave only these leftists in there, and see how long these schools survive. Hint, it'll be less than a week. It'll be less than a week. So there's a new hoax, ladies and gentlemen. The mainstream media could not resist themselves and have come up with yet another hoax, this time from Jeffrey Goldberg, apparently editor-in-chief over at The Atlantic. He claims that he was accidentally put into a chat with a bunch of the cabinet members, Trump's cabinet, a bunch of Trump's cabinet members discussing war plans against the Houthi rebels. Which, from what I can find, is nothing more than a claim he's made and a crock of bullshit. When asked about it, Trump said the first time he had heard about it, he knew nothing of it. I highly doubt that they accidentally let the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic into their call. If so, I think he would have come out with a whole lot more information than what he's done so far, which is merely a claim that it happened. So until I actually see evidence that this happened, I'm going to call this fake news and another attempt at a hoax. Why? Because Goldberg is one of the ones that came up with the suckers and losers hoax and a couple other of the bullshit hoaxes that have been perpetrated from the left side of politics. And of course, this was a perfect setup for Hillary Clinton. And anytime I see this ugly witch on screen, I use the W, and I used it purposely. I know that it was some kind of deep state setup. Most likely, she's working with this Goldberg to some degree, right? She put out a tweet in reference to his article and says, "You have got to be kidding me." This coming from the same woman that, here's a supposed, rather than exiting the chat, Goldberg took screenshots and published it. Okay, so it looks like there was a chat of some type. Houthi PC small group. Maybe it was real. Even if it was, which I really hope it wasn't, because that is a very, very bad breach of security protocol if that's the case. But let's remember, speaking of bad breach of security protocol, didn't Hillary Clinton have a server that was open wide for anybody to get into? That had all kind of state secrets on it? That she just happened to be using to send secrets overseas? I don't know. Seems to me like she did. So I think she's just as guilty as any of them. Now, I'm willing to wait a minute on this, calling this a hoax, because there is some type of evidence here. I don't know how true it is, but it does appear that there's evidence that this guy was in this chat. If so, then we definitely need to fire whoever put him in that chat, because he should not have been. CNN reports on alleged Gaza death toll. Social media quickly facts check outlet. So they took the reports from the Palestinians, the Hamas basically, and tried to report those as actual valid information when it wasn't actually the case. CNN's source is a purveyor of violent terrorism, one that has unapologetically massacred men, women, and children, as well as being known for changing their information. So instead of looking into this, they just ran with it. Turns out they don't count civilians differently than fighters. They were just giving full numbers that may or may not even be accurate, ladies and gentlemen. So when the enemy is telling you what's going on, I'm not as likely to believe what they are saying. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of terrorists, Jasmine Crockett has doubled down on her stupid. You see, her birthday is coming up March 29th, and she's made it very clear the only thing she wants for her birthday is for Musk to be taken down. I don't think she's going to get her wish. Then she starts talking about Ted Cruz after Pam Bondi said that she would look into this and said that he needs to be beat over the head, knocked over the head, she said. Now, I'm going to be fair here. She was speaking hyperbolically. She really was. She was speaking in terms of like going off on somebody and having an argument. I think they're taking this one a little bit too far. I think the Gateway pundits kind of use this one a bit more for propaganda. than I would like. I think they're stretching this just a little bit. That said, she has been out here making terroristic threats, saying things that she really has no business saying, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Take that as you will. Again, I think they're being extreme on this. Let's hear what she actually said. I'll let you guys actually listen to what she's saying, because believe it or not, I'm actually going to take her side on this one.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. I think
and we don't know the question asked prior to this either, to be fair.
I love Colin, and I think towards the end he started to punch a little harder. But, it's Ted Cruz. I mean, this dude has to be knocked over the head, hard, right? There is no niceties with him, at all. You go clean off on him, right?
See, to me, that sounds like pulling no punches, conversationally. You know what I mean? I don't think she was actually threatening violence against Ted Cruz. I'm going to stand on that now. She is threatening violence against Elon Musk, and the way she's doing is saying she wants him to be taken out, right? To take him out for her birthday, which, remember, there's a lot of crazies in this world that will read that a lot differently than what she will say that she meant it as, right? So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is tonight's news. It has been just over 30 minutes. Looks like we got it in a pretty decent time. We're trying to keep it around 30 minutes. Shout out to everybody over on TikTok that's watching. Bill Jones, you've been here for quite a while. I appreciate you hanging out with me, bud. I've seen a good number of people come and go, so really appreciate you guys over there, as well as over on X. I don't know how many we've had on X, as I don't have that pulled up. But quick shout out to everybody that has also been listening over on the X platform. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks. This is the Jerry Hicks Show. We try to do a show 5 nights a week here, ladies and gentlemen, and we hope that you join us again every single night. With that said, make sure you check us out, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, X. We are part of the Censored Freedom Network. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, hit the notifications, whatever it may be on whatever platform you may be on. Until next we meet, ladies and gentlemen, stay awake, but dare to dream. Stand strong, patriots. Good night, everybody.